John, I want to welcome you to the show today. I'm really pumped up that you joined us, and I appreciate you coming. And,
thanks for having me.
You know, I went to the Larks game the other night. Some beautiful weather. Things are happening.
Yes.
Things are going well.
Yes. Well, it's obviously with everything going on, it's all things considered, we have had a great season. The weather has been fantastic, and we're just happy to be playing baseball.
So, this whole COVID thing has been really interesting for a lot of businesses and just the United States in general.
Yep.
But how did you, when this was happening, what were some of the thought processes and some of the things that you were concerned about, and then how the heck did you guys come to allow the season to happen, and what kind of took place in order to do that? I think that's a really interesting story for everybody to hear.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to imagine this, I think, if you live in Bismarck, but at the time, we were the only baseball team that I know of in America that was playing games with fans in the stands.
Yeah.
And, again, I have to give a lot of credit to our staff, our team, the state of North Dakota, because there's a lot of things that happen to make it come together. But, really, too, it's a lot of, I would say, luck. I mean, we live in a great state. Our cases were down. And so, we were able to take advantage, I think, of when the governor announced guidelines, what they were going to be. We saw them early, and then we were able to act really quickly, which got us to where we were a lot earlier than anybody else. But just to kind of go back in time, I mean, I'll never forget mid-March, I was actually in Jamaica. My wife and I always take a trip right at the end of February, early March, because we know the season's going to get crazy. And again, everyone heard about COVID-19 or coronavirus, but it really wasn't a threat here, And so we went on our trip, and I mean, literally, John, every single day on our trip, it was beautiful out, sunny, great service. We'd go in, though, and turn the news on, and it was NBA canceled, 1,000 cases in the U.S., stock market crash. And I'm like, what does this mean? And then, that trip back, immediately it was like, Johnny, you should stay at the office. My wife had a quarantine for 14 days. And really quickly it hit me, what if we don't have a baseball season? And so I would say for about a month and a half, terrifying. But then we were able to, I was very fortunate to get on one of the governor's committees advising him for guidance of, large venues and how they could reopen. And that was on May 4th, because I won't forget it. I remember being on the call and them saying, hey, we are going to have guidelines to reopen, and it's going to be based off capacity, not off a limit. Because if you remember at the time, you could only have 10 people or more in a gathering.
Right.
So when we heard that it could be based off of capacity, but we still had a distance, we had to be smart, we had to have good hygiene, that's when immediately we went into hyperdrive. Literally within 4 weeks, we planned an entirely new season, got our fans, got our sponsors on board, and that's what allowed us to play baseball June 15th.
That's just crazy. So is there people that, when this is happening, all the things that are going on as it relates to the conversations that you're having with the governor's committees, the things that, what you're understanding from far as guidelines on, who in your world was instrumental in creating a season in a 4-week period of time to get it launched? Because you have sponsors, right? I mean, and you had to communicate to them, right? Because the sponsorships are contributing large sums of money as well, and they got to look at it from their rate of return perspective. And just so is there certain people that you have in your realm of influence that were instrumental in helping you?
Huge, because I think the guidelines truly were that trigger. Now, luckily for us, we've built great relationships with our sponsors, our fans. We have an amazing staff. So even in the uncertain time, we had, it was all about communication, letting fans know where we were in the process, what to expect. We always said from the get-go, we're going to do the right thing. If we don't have a season, we're going to allow people to push it the next year. We can't lose people's trust. That was the number one thing, because this might, we see this as hopefully a short-term blip on the radar. We don't want to jeopardize the long-term future of our business. So luckily for us, we had 0 sponsors, and I would say only about 5% of fans that really said, hey, we're just not comfortable with this. We want to push it, no matter what you guys do. But when we knew we had that, now it was all, our sponsors and our fans were on board as long as we could do something safe that was in accordance with guidelines. Then it was about, okay, what can we do? And again, we have two of our local owners here, Glenn Bosch and Terry Daffenroot. Glenn is a representative in the state legislature. That was a huge deal working with him and also being on that committee, because once we kind of knew, hey, Governor Burgum wants to be smart, we're going to be data driven, but we are going to find a way to reopen, it be North Dakota smart, as now everyone knows. That's when we immediately were able to then jump on and go, okay, what are the guidance? What are we going to do? And I lit up most of that, talking with the Department of Health, talking with Bismarck Public Health, talking with the governor's office, the Department of Commerce. There were so many different facets to kind of help us build the plan. But when we knew we had to go, I'll innovate, I'll work harder than anybody else, but I just wanted to know. I had to know we could do something. Where could we go? And once we knew that, then it was just hit the ground running.
And so now what you've done is you took, what was it, a 32 home game schedule?
36,
36,
yeah.
And then you just basically doubled that.
Yeah.
To create the same home environment based on the guidelines and the capacity rules. Is that?
Yes. So we immediately, we saw capacity. So, from a fan standpoint, I thought, okay, we're going to probably at most get to 40%. Because even most people would go, what about 50? You can't distance and be at 50%. It's just the math doesn't work. So then it's like, well, that's going to be a major fall short of, we sold out 97% of our tickets last year. So from a budget perspective, from just a business perspective, a sponsor rate of return perspective, it's like, man, that's going to be really tough to, deliver as much value as we wanted to. And then it just hit me, well, what if we double the games? And that's not an easy feat because, we have 22 teams in our league, most are in Minnesota, Wisconsin. But immediately it hit me as well, with everything going on in different states operating at different timelines, trusting a Minnesota team or a Wisconsin team to come here, and what if one of their players gets sick and they can't come? There's so much jeopardy when you start bringing all these different state teams into it. I called the Northwoods League up, and thank God our league was very nimble and very adaptive. But I said, guys, what if I could recruit 3 teams right here and they just played each other and we played 72 games? Can I do it? We'll pay for everything, hotels, the meals, we'll make sure we pull it off, but can you let us do it? And thank God they did. And, I got to also give a lot of credit, Bismarck Parks and Rec. That playing that many games on the field can tear it up,
Right.
And so I didn't think we'd be able to play 72 games, and they said, how can we help? Let's figure out a plan. And so again, all these different partners, we say the word partner a lot of times, but it's times like this that really show you who's a partner in a real relationship rather than a business acquaintance or
Right.
someone you just have to work with, and everyone came together to make the season come alive.
Was it challenging to get and so how did you come up with
Yep.
3-term teams versus 5? Was it just because of revenue and cost and what you guys
Yep.
could
It's
really
a great,
afford to do?
it's a great question. 2 would have been financially better, but then you got to think for 72 games from a competition standpoint. Will the guys then see the same arms, and it's just
Right.
not good competition? Do fans get tired of it? And we even still have some fans that are like, I'd rather not watch 3 teams. I like seeing the 9 teams, and of course we like seeing more teams come
Right.
in. But from a financial and a competitive balance, 3 made the most sense because then at least guys can rotate. They see different arms. Not every night you're seeing the same pitcher. We can change the lineups. So 3 just made the most sense from trying to maximize that competitive versus economic balance.
So is there any trading in the league amongst players?
There's not,
not,
So
okay,
yeah,
so-
it's an interesting question. What can happen in a year? Teams can waive a guy. If they waive a guy, then another team could pick them up. But there's no trades in season because the problem from a competitive standpoint is there's a lot of teams in our league owned by the same owners. So they actually, if you waive a guy, that waived player cannot be picked up by a same ownership team.
Okay.
Because if you did that, then there's some groups that they might stack the deck and
Right.
waive the guys
Waive
they got, and then
Right.
their big mothership team that might have the most fans or be in the biggest market, they
Right.
make them a powerhouse every single year. So there's some rules there, and then this year it's kind of wild because we have 3. We actually, so usually you have the rights to a guy. So if you keep the rights, he can't go to another team unless you waive him. But for this year, our coach started salivating because he's like, I got 3 rosters I can pick from for
Right.
next year,
So
but the league kind of said no.
They said no to
They
that,
said
even though
no.
all the teams are here and they're not. I mean, even
Yeah,
for,
just from because you got to think about
really
it. Some teams aren't even playing, so they're at a real disadvantage because they don't
Right.
even have any guys on roster. So and it makes sense, and it's a bummer because our coach is like, well, I recruited those, 2 of those teams, and one team. I don't know if you're familiar with this or the listeners, but one of our teams is actually the roster from Thunder Bay, Canada. With all the border closing, Thunder Bay was not going to operate, and so we called them and said, hey, if we give your American players a chance to play, we'll pay your coaches. Would you be willing to do that? And they said, that's fine. So the Mandan Flickertails are actually the Thunder Bay Border Cats team.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Even in it, I just find it interesting though amongst the trading because even if I get that the teams own the rights of these players, but this is such a unique situation.
Yeah.
To where just through the season they could, because you could create
Yeah.
even with 3 teams, you could create multiples maybe of 6 different teams if you trade the players amongst the teams and create different.
We could have, and then we have strict pitching guidelines,
Yep.
so like a guy can't pitch more than 30 pitches in an inning. If he pitches over 80 in a game, he has to sit out for 3 days. If he pitches more than 100, 4. So it gets a little weird if you start dividing up the talent too much, because then you run out of, basically it all comes down to pitching. You run out of arms.
Right.
Position players can play every single day. But that's kind of where, there's no trades. The only situation that might happen this year is, what's kind of funky is a lot of these guys right now have no idea what's happening with their school.
I was just going to ask that question.
So we have a 5-day break coming up in early August, and a lot of guys are going, hey, like, we want to stay, but we don't know if we're supposed to report back yet or not. So they might be heading home that week. So we are actually recruiting almost an entire second wave of players to maybe come in August and play those last 25 games for us this year. Now, luckily, Coach has a lot of contacts, and we feel good about that. But you're going to have like a whole wave of guys out and guys in.
I mean, are some of these players? Because a lot of these guys are Division I athletes,
Yep.
and or scholarship athletes. Are you seeing? Are they hearing different things? Are they knowing if there's going to be a season? Are there schools honoring scholarships? Are they, I guess from that perspective,
Yep.
I've even heard that some schools have canceled their programs.
We have, I believe it's 6 players, or almost, I think it might be 8 players, 4 on the Bull Moose and 4 on the Flicker Tails that are the Larks team that are from Boise State. And literally during our season, Boise State canceled their program. These guys don't have a place to go. No scholarship money, nothing. Now, luckily they're here. This is the best place they could be because they're getting at bats, and our coaches are actually, I think a couple guys are already picked up by some other programs. Right. So they'll be able to find a home. But no, it is an extremely uncertain time. And I try to remind them, again, it's a bunch of 19 to 22-year-old kids that just don't get really what's happening. They're like, why can't we go out? Why can't we autograph stuff for the fans? And it's like, guys, this right now, playing baseball in the sun, each other, this is not real. This is not what the rest of the country is doing. And so, we've really had to harp on them and now I think they're starting to see it because their coaches are saying, we don't know if you're going to come back. There's already some conferences that have pushed all fall sports in the spring. I think there's one conference that has already canceled some spring sports, and I think more is going to come. So very uncertain time for these student athletes that, just A, they're schooling, but B,
Right.
are they going to be able to play?
Well, and, it's interesting too, and I guess it's, NCAA rules or certain colleges, but, to have a scholared athlete, right, to go into a school to where you expect your tuition to be covered, and all of a sudden for it
Yep.
to get dropped. I know some programs, I believe, have at least honored the scholarships.
Yep.
But Boise, they didn't do that, huh?
Well, Boise canceled the entire literally baseball's gone. They will never have it again. They canceled that, and I think 2 other sports. But yeah, you'd hope the universities do the right thing, and I'd imagine if school's in session and the program's still in place, they're going to honor the scholarships. Right. But it's a scary time financially for everybody. I mean, a university and a college, they're on that same list. I mean, there's only so much state funding that some of them do get.
And so much of their revenue comes from obviously football or some of the bigger programs,
Sure.
right? But if they don't have the fan capacity
Yep.
or the revenue, it's going to be an interesting time. So hopefully we
Yeah.
can get through this.
A lot of uncertainty, and I think we got lucky again being in this summer, I'd say, bubble, and again now things are tracking up and it's kind of getting worrisome again. But we're just hopeful. We want to get through the season. We're halfway there. Again, get these guys their at bats, keep them healthy, keep them safe. We have a lot of guidelines in place for fans, for employees, for the players.
Yep.
And again, so far, knock on wood, we've been really lucky and have not had a single issue health-wise or anything thus far, which is huge.
So let's take a step back, because
Yep.
I know that, just from our relationship and the things that we've heard, but I think it'd be fun for the listeners to kind of just bring back to how you got into this role.
Sure, yeah.
And kind of your love for baseball and just how this transpired, because I think you got a pretty cool story.
Yeah,
so let's go back to the beginning, I guess, about John.
Okay, well, how much time do we got?
We can record.
My
for a
wife
while.
would just start snoring right now hearing this. But no, I really believe that I'm the luckiest guy on the face of this earth, like Lou Gehrig once said at a Yankees game. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, always loved baseball, grew up a Cardinals fan. I'm the most spoiled Cardinals fan, McGuire, and then you had Pujols, 2 World Series. It's love watching them. And I played growing up. My dad was a really good college baseball player. Never was as good as him. I couldn't hit the ball.
Did you play college ball?
I didn't. So I played it. I played in high school. I got up to JV, starting left fielder.
Yeah.
And I played at a really good school in St. Louis. It was at the Smet Jesuit High School. Had a lot of talent on all the athletic programs. And I wasn't able to swing it, pun intended, in terms of the game. But I always loved it. And my favorite part, honestly, about the game was not just I love the game of baseball and I love what it means and what it teaches and just, watching it. But I really love the experience, right? Like my favorite thing was going to the ballpark with my mom, my dad, my grandpa, my brother, and being a part of the McGuire home run race, or watching the cap dance on the screen, and just what that meant and how no matter what was going on in our lives or with our family or whatever, we all have those memories of games growing up with our family and our friends, right? I mean, there's something about being at a ballpark. So I kind of fell in love with that. I've always been growing up kind of a ham and trying to entertain people and make people laugh. That makes me happy, And so when I went to school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was a psychology major at first. Thank goodness I'm not a shrink. That would I would have more. I'd do more damage than I would good. But when I was a freshman, my buddy was like, yeah, hey, then there's this entertainment management major. And I'm thinking, wait, you can work in sports? Like that's, I love in psychology, I love why people think the way they do. It's kind of that marketing, why do you do what you do? And I found that really interesting. And, I started a fraternity and I was there with some buddies and I quickly, I ran a golf tournament and I loved that, right? I loved recruiting the players and the operations and the marketing and how do we do this? How do we make it fun? And then, I was the president of my fraternity, and then I was like, okay, I got to manage people and I want to be the best at this and this. So I didn't know at the time, but I realized I was in love with business and setting a culture and leading people, but I wanted to put it towards something that I was really passionate about, and I think that was sports. And so when I got into this major, again, kind of fell in love with it, and I got my real first shot when I got an internship with the Springfield Cardinals. That was the AA team of the St. Louis Cardinals. I started my internship in February, ended in September. I worked 72 home games, sold $25,000 in tickets for them, and I got a windbreaker and a polo. That was my compensation. They no longer have that program anymore.
Right.
I wonder why, but I will. That was invaluable for me because I remember being, everyone's first sales call, like, oh God, I'm so uncomfortable and nervous. And I was literally shaking on the phone and I had to talk to this little old woman who had bought 5 years ago some tickets. And they gave us the list that was the worst freaking cold call list, And I literally had a 30-minute conversation with her about her grandkids and how much fun they were taking them out. And I got off that call, she bought a couple of tickets and I was like, this is it, man. I get to sell fun. I'm selling happiness. And so, after that, I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. I was very lucky. I got accepted into a great grad program at Ohio University. If you don't know much about it, it's the number one, oldest and number one sports master's program in the country. It was actually started by the owner of the Dodgers back in the 60s because they didn't have any sport administrators at the time. Okay. And so you don't go there for what you learn, even though I learned a good amount, but I don't really remember the subjects I learned.
Sure.
You go there for the alumni and the relationships.
Yep.
And so you literally, when I got there, I got this book, they call it the Green Bible, and you look through it and it's every single team, league, organization that you can think of, and at every level of that organization, we had some alumni. And they kind of joke in the sports world, the Ohio family is called the Green Mafia. Because literally, and the whole thing is about family. You're supposed to call an alum. Within 48 hours, they'll get back to you and they'll help you out, talk to you, give you some advice. And that really opened my world up for, okay, it's not just get the first job I can want to get. How can I truly build a career doing what I love and, giving back, but, loving what I do every day in the sports world. Mm-hmm. And so that got me to meet a guy that changed my life by the name of Dick Raditz. And so Dick owns the whole league. Northwoods League, chairman of the league. At the time when I met Dick, I knew nothing about summer collegiate baseball. I thought, was this youth sports or high school? What is this? And Dick was assigned as my mentor. I'd put him down on a list of 5 people I wanted to be my mentor, and Dick, we had assigned to me. So I said, okay, well, let me give this guy a call. And I'll never forget, my buddies are talking to the VP of the Blues and VP of this, and they're like, oh, we talked for 20 minutes. It was so cool. And I get Dick on the phone and I go, Mr. Raditz, it's John Bollinger. He's like, John, Dick, I just want you to know we're going to do this right. I'm not going to talk to you on the phone today. I goes, if I'm going to be your mentor, I want to meet you. I want to fly down to my house in Florida. I want you to meet my wife, and we're going to see how we can truly help you with what you want to do with your career.
Wow. And
I get off the phone with him. I go, who the heck is this guy? And so he flies me down. Literally, it's like that story of, I get off the escalator. I got a guy's got my name on the, John Bollinger, the limo driver. They pick me up. I'm going, where the heck am I going? Go down to Point Vedra Beach, real nice house. Pull in, Dick opens the door to his house. He's got a bathrobe on, literally, with the Northwoods League logo on it. That's how this guy's, the greatest guy, larger than I've ever met. And he just literally, from the day he met me, first day, he just said, "Bring it in, brother," and gave me a huge hug. And from there, he literally said, "John, if you work hard, and if I want to help you, whatever you want to do, but if you want to work in this league and you're successful," he goes, "one day I want you to own your own baseball team." Cool. And I thought at 24 years old, like, is this guy just selling me? Like, what is this? This sounds too good to be true. And sure as heck, the day I graduated, I had a job offer down in Daytona Beach, Florida. International Motor Speedway. I would have been working for the company that owns 13 NASCAR tracks. Daytona Beach, Watkins Glen. I've been flying across the country selling corporate partnerships, big time businesses.
Big time deals, yeah. And
Dick offered me the chance to go to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and start what is now the Kalamazoo Growlers baseball team. So I said, you know what, I'm going to try. If 2 years in, 3 years in, this just doesn't work out, there's still opportunities, but this just sounds like too much fun. And again, the chance to run my own baseball team, going back to the fraternity, everything else I learned. Yeah. I thought, who gets a chance to do this? And so I went there. My buddy Brian and I started it. 3 years, really successful. And then again, I'll never forget Dick on the tee box after the second season. He goes, "John," he goes, I got your team. I told you you could have a chance to be an owner. I got your team if you want to go and you want to take it. I said, "Dick," you, of course, where am I going, man? Right. I'm in. And he said, "Bismarck, North Dakota." And then he's an amazing golfer, pipes a 300-yard drive right down the fairway. And I'm like, what the, oh my God, I'm dating my wife and at the time, like, shoot, how am I going to sell her? I love here. It's cold, what's in Bismarck? Right. But thank God I did, because we moved up here. And again, the Bismarck Larks has become one of the most successful summer collegiate baseball teams in the entire country. And this community, we had big dreams, and we had some really big ideas to do things differently, but we could never have done it without this community and the support. And so I'm just incredibly thankful. And I think I've told you this, but my wife and I recently purchased the team from Dick, just last year, and so it is our team. Awesome. We own it and operate it along with two other local owners. And so I'm 31 years old, and I get to live out my dream of
awesome.
Owning and running a baseball team.
So what was Dick's background? I mean, he's obviously on the team, but he probably was involved in other businesses and things like that.
No. So he has a fascinating story as well. Again, I think he taught me early on, and he said this to me. He said, "John, because everyone's trying to chase success. What is success?" And he said, "John, I always thought this." He goes, "I always thought money would be the easy part." He goes, "I always thought if I wanted to make money, I could." And he had buddies that went on Wall Street or did this and that. They made a lot of money, but they weren't happy. And he goes, "I always wanted to do what I loved." He said, don't mess up two decisions. Have a job you love and marry the right person. Yep. He goes, if you do those two things right, you're going to be pretty happy. Right. And so his story, he's a baseball guy. His dad, Dick Raditz Sr., I don't know if you know that name, but his famous MLB pitcher back in the 60s, he actually still holds the major league record for most strikeouts by a reliever back when relievers would throw a ton of innings, know. And they called him the Monster. Mickey Mantle actually gave his dad that nickname because he was 6'4", just gregarious guy on the mound. Yeah. And I think he struck Mantle out like 44 out of 66 times. That's crazy. And so he was that monster. And the press picked it up, and that's what they called him. Willie Mays, still to this day, said he was the toughest pitcher he ever faced. Said the baseball looked like an aspirin in his hand. So Dick grew up with the game, loved the game. He went to OU as well back in the 80s. And when he got out, went down to Vero Beach, Florida, ran a team down there for the Florida State League. He actually was the GM up for the Red Sox up in Pawtucket for their minor league system. So again, baseball guy through and through. And then one day got this idea. At the time, back in the early 90s, there was very limited summer collegiate baseball. They were all non-for-profit, all funded by Major League Baseball. And again, the Cape Cod, Alaskan League, some of these really popular leagues. But if you went, it was high school fields, free admission. It would just, you went there to show off, but there was no like minor league experience. Right. And Dick got the idea of, hey, what if I started a for-profit summer collegiate baseball league up in the upper Midwest where people are looking for things to do? What if we did it? And his wife at the time, she actually just retired from Citigroup Bank. She was the senior vice president of global HR. Okay. So she was kind of on her career, and Dick, was kind of doing his thing. Right. And they got together and said, let's start this. So they got some investors, they got some friends, pulled the money together, and Dick moved out to Rochester, Minnesota back in, I think it was the early 90s, on a dream. I mean, literally a dream. and started the Northwoods League.
And how many teams are there right now?
Now there's 22 teams. The league's been around 26 years, and it is the most successful summer collegiate baseball league in
It's
history.
been around for 26 years.
26 years. Yeah,
Wow.
started it early 90s.
So what made him want to have a team up in Bismarck?
Yeah, so again, most of the teams started in Rochester. So the original teams were actually in the Minnesota area. Then we and also Wisconsin. There's a team now in Iowa. It's kind of crept from there. It's grown into Michigan. A lot of people don't know this, but the league in its infancy had teams in Grand Forks and in Minot. Now, at the time, it's funny that you have to have a strong league to survive. But really, how a team is successful is its owner-operator, because Dick can only be so many places and so many times. And so you got to have successful management on the ground. And, again, for one way or the other, this is not an easy business, especially in smaller markets where you got to sell, got to get sponsors involved. So, the team for about 7 years was kind of, hey, this team started, this team went under, and kind of, went around. And then, probably the big break was we got a team in Madison, Wisconsin, the Madison Mallards, major metropolitan area, really great ownership group, great management group. That started taking off. Dick was able to sell some of the other teams because at the time too, he was running the teams in the league. Literally, running here, running there. How it is starting a business. You got to kind of grind it out for a couple of years, and then, probably that 8th, 9th, 10th year. It just, had some great management groups, some great markets, and really he could start to get picky on where he wanted to go. So that's a long way to get to Bismarck, but basically Minnesota, Wisconsin, and now really Michigan has kind of been saturated from the Northwoods League. Every market that doesn't have a quote-unquote minor league team, a single A, double A, triple A team, we have a team there. And so North Dakota really became that next frontier. And while we're kind of out on an island, Dick had always seen Bismarck as a great opportunity. It just didn't have the facility back when Dick was looking at it 7 to 10 years ago.
Now it does.
Now it does. So that happened, I think, back in 2013, 14 was when the municipal ballpark got renovated.
Right.
From there, Dick started conversations with the park district, and then fall 2016, we were on the ground running.
Yeah. Well, because it's I've heard you say a couple times, and we've already talked a little bit about this, but the idea of that you guys aren't just selling baseball tickets, you're selling fun.
Yep.
Right. And so to have that, I guess, mindset of the marketing and the things that you guys do and how you really engage the community through social media and things like that. So what, I think that's really interesting. So what are the challenges that you see to continue to come up with new content, things like that? Is it a challenge, or is it just be who you are and your nature of entertainment? Is that just kind of how you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it should always be a challenge. Even if you built something that is successful or viewed as successful, if you don't innovate, you're going to die. Look at COVID-19. I think it's stressed to everybody. Yeah, you had a restaurant that you worked this way for so many years. Guess what? You got to innovate and adapt, or you're going to go away. And so, to your point, we came in with this mantra. We're not selling baseball, and the big baseball fans will get upset when I say that, but we know the baseball fan's going to come because we're the only baseball team in town. What we were really selling is family entertainment. And so when you look at our mission statement, it's not win every game or, hit as many home runs as possible. It's, how do we use fun to make a difference? And that drives every decision, and so when it came from how we're going to sell tickets, how we're going to market, how do we design our sponsorships, what do we put in our partnership platforms, we took on this mantra that if we can be the fun people in town, we can be the place that, you can go buy a bunch of ads, buy a bunch of radio ads, TV ads, that's awesome. But if you can if fans come to the ballpark and feel good about it, and that sponsor out there isn't buying advertising, they're supporting the community and giving back and helping bring fun into your life, it's almost, you're going to feel, they're going to feel closer to those partners that help bring that, right? It's like truly the only place I think in town that offers that advertising, with community, with hospitality, right? I don't think you can get all three of those things in one place, outside of the Bismarck Larks baseball. There might be a place you can get more eyeballs, impressions, but are those valuable impressions? Are those people remembering you for something good rather than just advertising? So we try to take a different approach, and in our tickets, the big thing we did differently was all-inclusive food. No one had ever seen anything like that before up here. It was always, okay, I'll buy the day of, and I walk up, and we came out with these all-inclusive packages. And I'll never forget, we set a huge goal for ourselves our first year was to sell 1,000 of what is called our Shield 7 game packs. And I thought that's a big goal. Never done it in Kalamazoo. Only one team in our league's ever done that many. And we came out, all you can eat ballpark food, gifts, all this stuff for, I think it was $15 a ticket. Too good to be true. And we started marketing it, and I'll never forget the first ad we ran. It was like a 41 to 1 return ROI on it. I mean, we literally by December, within 3 months, we sold 1,100 of those packs, and our goal by May was 1,000.
That's crazy.
And we thought we have something special here, and just people bought into that. Hey, it's great value, it's entertainment, it's for my family, and that's the kind of culture we built. So yeah, is it a challenge every year to innovate and be different? Of course, but I think that's what we thrive off of. How do we push the envelope? Because we want to be the place that people always go, what are they going to come up with next?
Right.
Yeah,
and you got a great team. I mean, Caitlin and the whole staff over there, they're very innovative, and it's just, you guys are always coming up with goofy stuff, so it's great.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, again, I feel very lucky because I might be the general manager, but I can't do this. They make me look good. You got this in business. You got to have a great team. I mean, I can have the vision for it. I can see the philosophy, see the why, and really help cultivate that. But without great people that buy in, you can't force buy-in. You can't force hard work, right? Like you got to recruit great people that are just as passionate as you. And we got very lucky with that, having a great team. And so.
What would you say is your biggest challenge as you move the team forward? And I mean, let's say COVID goes away, right? Like pre-COVID, like what as a GM owner and just where you want this team to go, what would you say has been like the biggest challenge, and how did you overcome that, or have you overcome that?
Yeah, I think now it's a really exciting time for us because we are looking at growth opportunities, right? At the ballpark, can we look to expand? Can we add seats? Are we ready for that? With our partners, can we not just make it an experience at the ballpark that they get with us, but can we make it a 365 day of the year thing? Can we be doing special events? Can we be doing other community content pieces that give them value? But if that's a magazine publication, if that's getting into social digital assets, we become the videographer, we become the person sitting down with the client and figuring out how can we do this for you year round, right?
Right.
Are there other organizations or teams to look at in this area in North Dakota, right? Like, so for me, I love the growth. Like, again, our mission's not win baseball games. It's how do we use fun to make a difference. That doesn't just mean baseball. But on that same ticket, how do I balance growth in the future with never taking my finger off the pulse of what's got us here? And that is our fans, that is our corporate clients. And so that is continually to innovate and keep changing this product, so that people are getting extremes amount of value every single year. And if we can build that trust up with that core group, guess what? If we come out with a new thing, a new team, a new product, a new line for sponsors, we're going to have so much trust with them. They're going to go, well, heck yeah, why wouldn't I do that? Right. So I think for me now, it's balancing growth, and COVID kind of, I think, put a stop on it, and I think if anything, it actually, I don't want to say humbled me, because I always make this a huge point in our team to show appreciation and gratitude for those that we have, our partners and our fans. But it really showed me, I mean, literally, John, when every fan that we called and our sponsors said, John, we're in, we got your back, don't worry about this. Even if you don't have a season, we're going to support you. When we had that, I literally had tearful conversations with partners and fans about that. And I was hearing stories from other teams. Sponsors are out, fans are out. It was almost like the crack that maybe they had grown for 5 years. This was the reason to break. Okay, we're not happy, you're not happy. We had basically no one that did that.
Yeah.
And that showed me just the power of what a relationship truly is. Yeah. And so I never want to take that for granted, and always show that appreciation. And almost the growth now is, how do I grow and add value for them? So it's a fun challenge, of how do we, and then, everything else that, all the fires that happen on a daily basis. I mean, they're still, the running the business doesn't go away, right? And the more you grow employees, and you got, okay, how do I keep everyone happy? And so there's a lot of challenges, but for me, I think that's the one it's a challenge, but God, it's exciting. Yeah. I love it. I'll take a challenge all day to figure that one out.
Well, John, you can tell that you're passionate about it. You love what you do, and I think that's the biggest thing is, I always make comments that passionless people are pitiful, right? And you have to love, and you have to have a passion, because that's what, and you can just see it, that you just love it. Yeah. And it's kind of fun to be around. It's intoxicating. So you're doing a great job. What if the one thing that you could say to listeners or fans, what would be the one thing that you would say people out there?
Yeah, that are if they're a Larks fan, honestly, the only thing I could say right now is thank you. Thank you. So much gratitude, so much appreciation, so much love. We came here on the premise that we wanted to do this extraordinary, wanted to stand out, but we wanted to do it right, and so after going through this year, everything we've had to go through, fans have had to go through, sponsors, the community, I just want to say thank you for sticking with us, and always know that we are never, we always want to get better. So, fans can, if there's anything we can do better, improve upon, you want to see next year, let us know. And this is the community's team. I really believe that. And for those that haven't been to a Larks game or aren't a fan, yet, just haven't seen it, a biggest thing would say, give us a chance. Come out, check it out, see what it's about. Whether it's your business and entertaining clients, customers, you're taking your family out. If it is looking at some of our advertising sponsorship options, we really do try to limit that so that it's more valuable for the partners we have. But every single year we'd love to talk to new businesses and see how we can creatively help them. But yeah, just be a part of it. We want to be a movement again. And how do we use fun to make a difference? And that's how I measure success at the end of the year, more than just dollars and cents. So.
Great. So for those who haven't been to a game or those that are looking for information, is there a number they can reach, or is there a website they can go to? You want to just fill the listeners?
Yeah, larksbaseball.com is the best thing. I mean, again, we have a number, but I see those commercials now that say their number. I'm like, no one remembers that. Is that still a thing? It's
so you don't want to give your personal cell phone?
No, I would. If someone could text me anytime. That's actually on the website too. But larksbaseball.com, every single thing's on there. Again, my email is john@larksbaseball.com. I'm like an anal emailer, so if you do email me, I can never delete it unless I answer it or it gets done. So that's probably the best way to get a hold of me if anyone has questions or comments or anything to ask me. So
awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming in. We appreciate what you guys are doing for the community, and just thanks again for spending some time and sharing your story. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you, John, and to all the listeners, again, Solid Rock Financial, you guys are a tremendous partner of ours. You've been a tremendous friend of ours, and we just really appreciate everything that you do for us. And I think you might see the passion on my end, but if people don't know who you are, they need to meet you, because I think I've told you this. I've never met someone who is more passionate about what they do, and I think what I love about our relationship is both of us are always trying to challenge the status quo and do things differently. That are not just to be different, but because we know by being different we can help those who want to serve. Right. And I don't think I've met someone as passionate than me, or probably more passionate than me than you on your subject matter. So I highly recommend talking with you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So that's a cheap plug, everybody.
Yeah. He didn't pay me to do that.
No, the invoice is in the mail, right?
Yeah.
So again, I appreciate you, man, coming in. It's been fun to chat with you, and look forward to the seasons coming up too.
Absolutely.
All right, man.